Welcome back, everyone, to the Red Red Report. Now we're going to turn our attention to the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who visit Lubbock. Don, last time they came here wasn't a real fun experience for them. Has that been brought up any this week, that circumstance when they had 70 points scored on them at the hand of the Red Raiders?
You know, I kind of doubt it, just because the way the Big 12 schedule works, you only see teams from the other side or from the other division twice every 4 years, and so players who were asked about it during the news conference this week said, you know, they remembered the game, but in the case of guys like Graham Harrell and Darcel McBath, they were freshmen, first semester on campus, who were redshirting. They were sitting in the stands watching. A guy like Brandon Carter, who was an underclassman, he was taking his official visit here that night. So really there aren't any players on these teams who had any direct involvement in that game. So I don't think that will really be a big factor. It is kind of interesting, though, that it's been a landslide both ways. Each of the last two times that Tech and Nebraska have played in Lubbock. Last time it was 70-10. Tech, you know, Nebraska set school records for most points allowed, largest margin of defeat, and in 2000, Mike Leach's first year here was 56-3 Nebraska in one of those fantastic Nebraska offensive football teams that Eric Krause just went crazy on the Red Raiders.
Right. You know, Adam, you talk about Nebraska. They're 3-2 on the season. They are not in a fun stretch of their schedule. They've lost 2 consecutive games, including a 52-17 loss to Missouri, where they just, quite frankly, looked horrible.
That's right. You know, the Virginia Tech game the week before, last non-conference game, that was close. Nebraska had some chances at the end, ends up losing 35-30. Last week, about the only thing they did, I guess, was spit on Chase Daniel.
Allegedly.
Yeah, they didn't really do much. You know, after that, you know, Missouri comes out and just completely dominates. You know, one thing to note, Missouri, I think now has gone 49 consecutive series for possessions without a 3-and-out.
That's amazing.
So that means they didn't have a 3-and-out against Nebraska, which is bad news for Bo Pelini's defense.
You know, one of the things I think is positive that bodes well for Texas Tech going into this game, or a couple of things actually. We've talked over and over. It's been a recurring theme this season about how effective that the running game has been with Baron Batch and Shannon Woods.
Right.
And then last Saturday night, Missouri, you know, a spread offense, very different type of spread offense than what Texas Tech runs, but they do spread you out. And Derrick Washington, the Tigers running back, goes for 139 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns against the Cornhuskers. I think yet again this could be another Saturday on which Batch and Woods go have a big game. You know, it's been 5 weeks in a row that the team has had at least 100 yards rushing. That's a first in the Mike Leach year, and I think it's very likely that they can extend that stretch to 6.
Yeah, and another concern for Nebraska, their leading tackler right now, linebacker Cody Glenn, was injured in the Missouri game. Bo Pelini said Monday that he's day-to-day. You know, so he could play Saturday, but even if he does, he might not be at full strength. That could really hurt the Cornhuskers defense if Cody Glenn can't go. And
do we have time for another concern for Nebraska?
Go ahead.
They're 97th in the nation in pass defense, too.
Right.
So obviously,
can't do much right, can they, Doug?
Graham Harrell and Mike Crabtree have to their eyes have to light up when you see that, and then you look at some of the media coverage up there in Nebraska this week, and a lot of the focus is on where is the Cornhuskers rushing game on the offensive side of the ball. You know, last year, even though they were a sub-500 football team, they at least had a little bit of an identity there with Marlon Lucky being a 1,000-yard rusher, being able to run the football pretty consistently. He got some support for all Big 12 conference, and now this year you look down, Marlon Lucky's averaging, about 40, 45 yards a game. And last Saturday against Missouri, their longest carry was for 9 yards, and you take away 330 yards on the ground that they had against New Mexico State in one of those walkover non-conference games, and it's a team that's averaging less than 100 yards on the ground.
Right. That's right. You know, Marlon Lucky's the big name there. They've got some young guys they've been looking to kind of behind him, Roy Helu, Quentin Castile. Neither one of them has really done a whole lot. You know, those 3 have only combined, 7 touchdowns, which I guess isn't too bad, but neither one of them is averaging more than 50 yards a game on the ground. Only one of them is averaging more than about 4 yards a carry.
Right, and Don, while we're having a burn down the corn farm party, we might as well go into another negative. The penalty problems have been absolutely terrible under Bo Pelini, even himself racking up a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty against Virginia Tech. That seems to be a concern for a lot of people around the Nebraska football program.
Adam, take that one.
It really is. It seems to be all the talk around the program since the Missouri game, against Virginia Tech. Bo Pelini kind of went nuts on the sideline toward the end of the game. Gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for yelling at the refs. That helps Virginia Tech go down and score. Nebraska loses the game. Last week, another issue. I think they had over 100 yards in penalties. They have 8 personal fouls for the season already. It's a big concern. It puts you in some tough situations. They've also had problems with false starts and offside penalties. One way to look at it as well, you got a new coach, an intense guy, haven't had a whole lot of success. You want to have an edge about you. You want to make the other guy a little scared.
Right.
You want to be physical. You just have to find the fine line there, between pushing people around, having an edge, having some bravado, and costing yourself valuable yards.
Yeah, and I know Bo Pelini is quoted this week as saying that I think it is a concern of his, particularly when you talk about the alleged incident involving Chase Daniel. He said that he definitely did talk to the team about that they absolutely wanted to be a program that played with class, and any dirty play would not be tolerated from the top down. So I think he wants to get that message across. We stressed, some of all the difficulties, all the negatives that the Cornhuskers have had to overcome. Adam, you've taken a closer look at them. If they're going to come into Lubbock on Saturday night and upset a top 10 team, how do you see that coming about? What do they have to do?
Well, first of all, they've got to play great defense. Bo Pelini has a reputation as being a great defensive mind. Yeah, I think the pieces are there. I think they can do it. It's just a matter of putting it together. Secondly, Joe Ganz has got to come out and have a big game, I think. He's been good so far this year. Thrown for 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But he's he's an experienced guy. He can make big plays. He's got some good receivers. Nate Swift, Todd Peterson, even Marlon Lucky is a pretty good threat out of the backfield.
Exactly.
So I think they're going to have to come out, be great in the passing game. Lucky's going to have a good game. They're going to have to play well all the way around, I think, just to give themselves a chance to beat Texas Tech.
I know one of the concerns that Tech has in facing the Cornhuskers, and visiting at the beginning of this week with Brian Mitchell, the Texas cornerbacks coach, he said they're a lot more complicated offense to get ready for than Kansas State's offense was. In terms of personnel groupings, he said Kansas State pretty much showed about 2 personnel groupings, and that was it. Obviously they had some offensive weapons and some talent, but they didn't really confuse Tech a whole bunch. Nebraska, he says, probably can. Well, they think Nebraska will throw at them 7 or 8 different personnel groups, so the defensive guys have to be really aware. So there's a whole bunch of motion, a whole bunch of different formations, and so from a Tech standpoint, defensively, they're concerned about making sure that they recognize what's in front of them pre-snap every play.
Yeah, another thing, guys, I mentioned special teams with Texas Tech and how they've kind of struggled a little bit. Nebraska seems to be pretty good on special teams. I meant Nate Swift as a punt returner has taken one back for a touchdown. Niles Paul has a kickoff return for a touchdown. If you look at their kicker, Alex Henry, 7 of 8 on field goals as opposed to Corona, who's 2 of 6. And Henry is 5 of 5 between 40 and 49 yards. So a kick like that, a punt return, a kickoff return, that could be a huge momentum swinger in a game.
All right, and bottom line, guys, I'll put you on the spot. Can Nebraska come in here Saturday night or Saturday afternoon and compete with Texas Tech?
They can compete, but I think it'll take Tech playing down to a lower level. I think Tech would have to have a dud game, the likes of which they had, say, last year against Colorado, that 26-21 loss, which, if I remember correctly, that was homecoming last year. This is homecoming this weekend. I think Tech would have to have a listless performance and turn the ball over quite a few times to give Nebraska a chance to hang in this one.
Adam?
I agree. I think the Red Raiders are a better team. They're in a better position right now. I think their heads would have to swell to about the size of Jones Stadium and just think that they're the greatest thing in the world between now and Saturday to give Nebraska a chance. They'd have to have a big letdown.
Right, and guys, that's going to close out our look at the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and we're going to be right back. We're going to talk about an exciting week of Big 12 action. There are a couple other huge games. We're going to be right back on the Red Raider Report.